Good morning, everybody, and welcome. My name is Jack Sutton. I'm one of the co-chairs for the Ohio River Recreation Trail, and I think I know just about everybody on the call today. We're glad you're joining us. We've got a lot of work to do this morning, so I'm going to jump right in and explain that what we're doing this morning is really step 4 in our Rivertown review process. So last year, Mike Perleberg assembled the team from Dearborn County, which was a combination of Lawrenceburg and Aurora community leaders, and applied to participate in our Rivertown review process. And we're selected to be in round 2. We've completed round 1, and that included New Richmond, Ohio, Rising Sun, Indiana, and Carrollton, Kentucky. Now we're into round 2. Part of the process involved what we call a desktop review, and that's where we solicited volunteers to go into websites related to Dearborn County, Aurora, and Lawrenceburg, and just sort of do a secret shopping review of that. And you'll see the write-ups on those desktop reviews in the final report. We also invited some volunteers, got together and did a bike ride through both Lawrenceburg and Aurora one afternoon. And those were a couple of volunteers from our team that are not from Dearborn County, so they had a fresh set of eyes. And then many of you participated in our community walkabout that we conducted on May 6th. And during that, we walked through downtown Lawrenceburg and looked at a lot of the images you're seeing here, the levee walk, the bike share program, this new civic park, and really just had a great conversation with the leaders in Lawrenceburg. And we did the same thing with folks in Aurora. So all of this is culminating to provide a fresh set of eyes on Lawrenceburg and Aurora and the Dearborn County community. And what will happen after today is all that information will be compiled by our friends at the National Park Service. They'll put together a written report and get that in your hands hopefully by midsummer. So that's really what the deliverable will be. It's a lot of work and a lot of information, and what we do today is very important towards that end product. So without further ado, I'd like to recognize Mike Perleberg and introduce Mike to share a few words from his team and let us know who's here on the call from Dearborn County.
Hey, thanks, Jack.
Let me tee something up, Mike. So
sure.
Those folks from the Lawrenceburg team, we'd like, when you introduce yourself, we'll give you time to prepare. Tell us one place you'd like to take visitors from out of town when they come to visit. Back to you, Mike.
Ooh, that's a hard one. There's so many. Well, thanks, Jack, and thanks to certainly the Ohio River Recreation Trail for assembling the Rivertown Review Program, and the National Park Service folks. You know, it would have been great if you could have visited our towns, you know, a couple weeks ago when we had the walkabouts on a beautiful day, as you can see in the photos there. It was the pick day of the week, rather rainy week here in Dearborn County, but we got a great day for to do that. And glad we're getting this opportunity to interact with the National Park Service and also the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail as well. And very much looking forward to sharing ideas, thoughts, and all the opportunities that we feel there are in Dearborn County and Lawrenceburg and Aurora as it pertains to the Ohio River here. So, speaking of the photographs, great photographs, by the way, by Joe Wallach and John Nation. I shared those with everybody, and those are fantastic. I definitely plan on using them in some of One Dearborn's marketing for Dearborn County on the business attraction side of things, because, man, we got some beautiful river towns here for sure. And do want to recognize the local folks who are on the call today, and we'll let them introduce themselves as we kind of go around the table here. But as most of you know, Mike Perleberg, Executive Director here at One Dearborn Economic Development. So with that, one place that I'd really like to, you know, if I had a visitor in town and wanted to take them somewhere in Lawrenceburg, I would go to Riverwatch. I'd take them down to the Riverwatch because you get to see the river, and it's a little bit of a Key West vibe there, some good grub, and you know, it's a pretty unique dining experience that you can only enjoy, you know, during the warmer months here. But Riverwatch is where I would be happy to take a visitor.
Thank you, Mike. I'm going to go down my slide scale, and I see Debbie Smith as first name up. Debbie, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Debbie Smith, Executive Director for Dearborn County Visitor Center. And I want to say thank you also for those photos. we're always looking for great photos to use in our marketing efforts. So thank you for those. It's really hard to say one thing, which place we'd want to take them, but we get a lot of people who are outdoors people. So I do always mention the Dearborn Trail, and whether they get on our bike share program or if they're just walking the levee, because it's just a beautiful part of the town.
Thank you, Debbie. Hey, Andrea, can you go to the next slide? I'd like to introduce Guinevere Emery. She's with the city of Lawrenceburg. There we go. I wanted to show off the civic park for you, Guinevere. You're on mute.
Thank you. Guinevere Emery, City of Lawrenceburg. I'm the communications director here for the City of Lawrenceburg. I've got a tie to several cities and towns in the county through my municipal experience. So all of these beautiful photos in these regions are just, you know, an incredible asset. So one area I guess that was a very hard question. You know, where would you take someone just to one location? I would also say the Dearborn Trail with the trail levee, that entrance into the connectivity of the river, the Ohio River, the Dearborn Trails, the backbone trail that connects so many cities across Dearborn County, Greendale, Lawrenceburg, Aurora, with the potential to grow into Ohio County and Rising Sun. There at that entrance, you are also at a benchmark for the River Cities Bike Share program. You can hop on the Dearborn Trail and just take off and have a beautiful experience. So at the Lawrenceburg Event Center, it's located. Civic Park looks phenomenal.
I agree. That's an unfair question. It's like asking which is your favorite child. So
True.
Next, I'll invite Brian Messmore to introduce yourself. Brian, you may be on mute. There you go.
Somebody keeps muting me on purpose. Brian Messmore here, the Director of Redevelopment here in beautiful downtown Lawrenceburg. I think standing at the end of Walnut Street at the river, looking, you know, back north on Walnut, being able to take in the river and just give people a perspective of the entire downtown and its relationship to the river, although somewhat separated by the levee. That's a great place, I think, to get an advantage, so people get a complete understanding of you know what we have here. And then that would be shortly followed by a walk through the Civic Park and a cold beverage at Proof 124.
Sounds perfect. John Seymour.
Yes, I'm John Seymour with Oxbow Incorporated. We're the owners of a 1,400-acre nature preserve just on the edge of Lawrenceburg, and of course that's being promotional. That's where I would take a visitor, especially one that likes to canoe or be out in nature.
Great, thank you, John. We have someone I don't know, Karina Franklin.
Hi, sorry, and my picture looks really funny and I can't stop laughing at myself because it looks like I have a bubble head and I don't know how to fix it. So, oh, hi, I'm just visiting, by the way.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Mark Donovan, you want to introduce yourself, Mark?
I do. I'll even turn on video. So yes, I'm a retired citizen, have no title of any kind, just interested in all things Dearborn County, trying to get some bike trails up through the northern part of the county. And I've been working with a couple other people in that regard, twisting arms, begging. So I try to get some things motivated. Like you have the beautiful Dearborn Trail, try to get that up in the northern part of the county. If I had a wish list of where I'd take somebody, I'd take them on a cruise around kind of the northwestern part of the county, through Dover, New Alsace, Yorkville, down through Bonnell, kind of show them some scenic area, and end up at Vitor's in downtown Bright for one of the finest restaurants in the county.
All right, Mark, thank you very much. I see we also have some other guests kind of joining us, auditing us today. We have Kendall Miller with Ohio County Tourism. Kendall, thanks for joining us. Also, Haley Woods. I had a wonderful conversation with Haley the other day. She's with the consulting firm that's working for the city of Lawrenceburg on their comp plan. So I'm glad Kendall and Haley could join us today. So we actually have got a lot to get done. If Andrea, if you want to go to the agenda, I'll keep us rolling here to keep us on schedule. We've got a full agenda, and there's going to be opportunity for some great engagement as we get into the SWOT analysis process, the brainstorming process, and wrap up. But we're mindful of everyone's time, so we want to get through and wrap up by 11. Hopefully everyone is familiar with the use of Zoom. Just some housekeeping comments here. David did mention earlier we are recording this session, and so we're capturing audio, video, as well as input into the chat. And please do use the chat function. We encourage everyone to go to the chat, tell us who you are, maybe your organization or your title, and an email. And that'll help us complete our roster for today's meeting. We would also suggest that you remain on mute, but if you'd like to ask a question, by all means, particularly as we get into the SWOT and brainstorming, that's where we want some engagement. Feel free to unmute yourself and jump in at any time you feel is appropriate. So let me tell you just briefly about the Ohio River Recreation Trail. It's a concept that was just started several years ago, namely by my two co-chairs, and they're on the call. And many of you met Brewster Rhodes. He's based out of Cincinnati, and he's kind of the guy that helped create Paddle Fest over 20 years ago. Brewster's with us today and was with the walk on May 6th. And also David Wicks, who is a professor at the University of Louisville. And one of David's claims to fame, I would say, down in Louisville is he's helped put together an outdoor adventure event called Walk, Bike, and Paddle. And that occurs on Memorial Day weekend, and I think also Labor Day weekend. And it's a way to encourage citizens in the greater Louisville area to come and enjoy their Ohio riverfront and everything you can do on the river or along the river. So David and Brewster and a few other folks several years ago took a canoe trip from Portsmouth, Ohio to Louisville, Kentucky. And that's really was the vision or the seed that got planted that created what we call the Ohio River Recreation Trail. The whole concept is to celebrate the Ohio River, to recognize its natural assets, and to share that beauty with other people. So many people think about the river in all sorts of parameters. It's a transportation corridor, it's a commercial corridor, it's a source for our drinking water for many communities. It's also where waste is disposed of. And so a lot of reputations the Ohio River has, and we're trying to promote the fact that it is a wonderful natural asset. It's a great place for outdoor adventure. It's also a thread that links together all these wonderful river towns. So if you think of these towns like Lawrenceburg and Aurora and Rising Sun as pearls on a necklace, it's the Ohio River that kind of links everything together. So we're celebrating that through the Ohio River Recreation Trail. We've created, if you go to the website, I encourage you to do that, explore it on your own. You'll find that on that website, you can list your events for the city of Lawrenceburg or Dearborn County Tourism. There's ways to get that information to us, and we'll list that. This website becomes a planning tool, a trip planning tool for people who might be traveling to the region. And then also the most unique aspect about this website is what we call the digital guide. And you'll see a blue button kind of in the upper right-hand corner. And if you click on that, you'll dig into that digital guide. There's that blue button. And when you click on that, you'll dig down into the digital guide, and you'll see basically a Google map of if you will, of the entire river corridor from Portsmouth to Louisville. And we've, with the assistance of OKI, have put this together with GIS data. And if you're on a mobile device or a tablet that has GPS coordinate attributes, you can basically plot yourself right on the map where you are. And if you're on the river, you can be a boater and you can understand what's around you in terms of amenities along the river or commercial activity. And the really cool thing, the most unique thing about the digital guide is if you see that purple line going up the river, that's called the sail line. And that is where commercial barge traffic generally locates itself. Doesn't have to, often it'll be to one shore or the other, but with this digital guide and real-time information, actual commercial barges are tracked. Every 15 minutes it's updated. So if you're a boater and you're coming up along a bend in the river and you're not sure what might be on the other side of that bend, this will help you determine if there's a barge coming your way, or if you're getting close to a barge terminal or some kind of other commercial activity. So it's a fabulous tool. It's unique to the United States. OKI has just submitted it as compete for an award on some GIS planning award through their peer agencies across the country. And so we wish them well, and I imagine they'll get a lot of success out of that. So when you have a chance, go check out our website, learn a little bit more about what the Ohio River Recreation Trail is doing. In 2019, we applied for and were awarded a planning assistance grant from the National Park Service. And they have a group called the Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program, and that's what helped us develop this River Town review process that we're embarking on this spring. And with that, I want to introduce our partners who are going to really lead the rest of today's program. We have Andrea, Russ, and Helen from the National Park Service, and you're going to get to know them very well over the next hour and 15 minutes or so. But they're going to lead us through today's exercise. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Andrea to tell us a little bit more about the RTCA program, their association with the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail, and then get us started into our activities this morning. So thank you all. Andrea, it's all yours.
Thank you, Jack. Excuse me, I don't have my talking voice on yet. Yes, we are the Rivers Trails Conservation Assistance Program. We are part of the National Park Service. Our program goes out into communities and helps them to get projects done to realize on-the-ground success with outdoor recreation and conservation. We don't just work in national parks. We're kind of a unique program that way. We work outside in the communities. So we have on our team Russell Clark, if you can give a wave, and Helen Sievers. And Michael Schilling is also part of our program too. He's from the Southeast region. He's chiming in and seeing what we're doing here. So we started this as a project when ORRT came to us and applied for our services. We're helping to build out the Ohio River Recreation Trail, provide some direction for the team as far as strategic planning and community engagement. It's a process, as Jack said. We provide those fresh eyes on your community from a different perspective. You applied for the Rivertown Review and you were selected. This is round 2 of Rivertown Reviews that we're doing. Your town, Mike, thank you very much, sent a lot of information our way for us to review. And then we did a desktop review of your internet and digital resources. Then we did a tour with the town hosts, and now we are at the point where we're doing a community meeting. It's just part of what we do with the project partners. We will develop a report you'll hear about at the end. But this is just one of the types of things that we do. We provide a lot of information, consultation, and resources to the community for whatever they're working on in relation to outdoor recreation. Another National Park Service layer that is involved is the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail. So people often think of the Lewis and Clark Trail as being a Western trail, but in the last 2 years, they did the Eastern expansion, and it overlays the part of the river that you're on. And so we've been working with Derek Schimmel of the Solomar International. They are the contractor who are putting together this website, the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail Experience. This is another opportunity for you to engage on a different level with their whole website. And we will be sending you instructions about how you can engage with this. And if you go to lewisandclark.travel, you will see this website, and it goes, oops, sorry. It is an interactive website. There is no charge, and you can put your points of interest, your community's features and highlights on this website. In here we have, you can see the big picture all across the country of this trail. And if you drill down to each of these orange circles, you will come up to a more specific view of your community, which I have blown up here. You can see there's only 2 little dots here. So there's a lot of opportunity to engage with this website as another avenue of promotion for the tourism in your community, to get those Lewis and Clark and historical travelers and get your information out on a national scale. So both of the tools outlined can be easily used and further developed because of the great work that Mike has done here in his, I guess it's like a story map, geospatial identification of all your tourism points. There's a lot of dots there. So think about all of those dots being transferred onto the Lewis and Clark site, or the digital guide has capacity for not only paddling on the river, but amenities and points of interest as well. So this can all be used on other platforms. So thanks, Mike, and I'm sure that you will have a chance to talk with others about this great work that you've done here. So we've been talking a little bit about our process, and now we really want to talk with you about your town. We want to hear from you. So for that, we're going to go to Russ Clark, who is going to lead us through a SWOT analysis and talk a lot more about your town.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Yes, we want to learn about your town. Unfortunately, we at the National Park Service are still on limited travel capability, so we were not able to participate on the walkabout. I start every project by looking at Google Maps, and what I see here when I look at the relationship of Dearborn County to Lawrenceburg and Aurora, and being just 22 miles downstream from Cincinnati is Lawrenceburg. This area, we look at the region as a whole, not as individual communities, because this river corridor connects everybody together. After all, it was our original interstate highway system for this area as before it was ever settled. Next slide, please. As we look at the areas, we zoom in on our communities and begin to understand what they have to offer, just from the general amenities that we can see. And the next slide shows how we can begin to categorize some of the relationships. As it was mentioned earlier, being able to stand on the levee and look down the street at Main Street and see the commercial core, the levee walkway connecting all the way down into a regional trail system. You've got Tanner's Creek and Great Miami River as great assets on each side of this community for paddling and other experiences. And you've got a boat launch capability there at Tanner's Creek that's of top-notch facility. So you have a lot going for you. I don't know all the assets that you have to offer, and that's why we're going to do a SWOT analysis. We're going to look at the strengths, the opportunities, the weaknesses and threats, and basically their internal aspects of what your strengths are and your weaknesses, and then external aspects related to that, what's helpful, what's harmful. And we're going to spend a few minutes on each one of these, and you are going to give us some of your ideas and thoughts on what these strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats are to your community. And this is important for us to understand what's important to you. And we begin to be able to glean some ideas and be able to make some recommendations based on the input you provide us through this process. And with using this or doing this process, we're going to use a new tool, and we want to capture your thoughts in these areas. And I'd like to introduce Helen Sievers, who will walk you through the use of this software. Helen?
Good morning. Let me just start by saying my dog is losing her mind downstairs. I hope you can't hear her barking. So I work with Andrea, Russ, and Michael, and we are pleased to offer a tool that we would be using if we were in person today. It's a web-based Post-it note activity. So if you'll go to the chat box that's affiliated with this Zoom call, go to the bottom of your screen. You'll see a little bubble in the middle that says chat, and click on that. And then that should open up the box. And the last thing I entered says welcome and warm up, and then just hover over the link, and that will launch a new window in your browser. So you want to go to that window in your browser, and then you'll be invited to log in as a visitor. If you want to type your name in, you're free to do that, or you can enter anonymously. Everyone is issued some kind of avatar. I see we have a panda, a hippopotamus, a sea lion. Y'all are catching on quickly. I've already got 12 online users, so that's really great. So what I'm going to have you do, this is a quick and absolutely no consequence exercise, but I want you to get a feel for how to use Mural. So double click in the middle of the rectangle that I'm about to summon you to, and just double click to create a Post-it note, and enter the name of your favorite animal. Even if it isn't really your favorite animal, just enter something that's maybe unique from everything else, because here in just a moment, we're also going to do a little voting exercise that'll be helpful to us for our last activity for the day. So for example, somebody entered dog in all caps. I'm going to make that one bigger just by grabbing a corner of that Post-it note and enlarging it. And you can do that on your own note as well when you're finished. And then if somebody else got practice with entering but didn't put anything in the name, so I'll just add horse there. No, it looks like I typed jippers, so we'll try again. And you can make your text larger. There's a little menu bar that comes up, a toolbar. When you're typing, you can make your text larger or smaller. You can change the color if you'd like to call yours out to be a little different. And I'll ask if anybody has a question, feel free to unmute and ask your question. There are no stupid questions here. All right. Well, I tell you what we're going to do now is I'm going to, in case you've wandered off from this main rectangle, we're going to do a little voting session. Everybody gets 3 votes in case you can't decide what's really your favorite animal. Just click on, I'm going to vote for the hippo. Now you maybe, I don't think you can see my votes. And you can't see anyone else's either. That's part of, we're trying to avoid groupthink here. We want everybody to do their own voting, and I'm just going to watch how that's coming along. I see the visiting owl and the visiting ram and the visiting hippopotamus have voted. Y'all are catching on quickly. Again, just click on any Post-it note that you would like to cast a vote for, and then move on to another one. Or you could even cast 2 votes for the same thing if you want to really emphasize what's your favorite. Y'all are doing great. Any questions at all? Feel free to unmute and ask your questions.
Helen, no question, just a comment. Can you also explain, as we get into the exercises, we'll want to be on a time clock and have a little bit of I'll try to help you keep track of time so we stay on schedule.
And on that note, I just set one for 29 seconds. So you'll know what the notification sounds like when we finish one of our sessions. You're exactly right, Jack. We do need to move along since we're all on a time frame here. And I think I'll actually end the voting now, and you'll see how these results come up on your screen. Looks like we had a lot of people casting a vote for a manatee. And then, so you'll have this dark screen up right now. If you go to your upper right-hand corner within that screen, just press that white X and that will close you out of the voting session.
Helen,
Yes.
as we get into the first exercise, if you could just walk us through it again. I know there was one individual was unable to connect, so we'll just want to kind of walk it through the intro again.
Thank you for that. Okay, Guinevere, I don't want to call you out, but I do want to invite you, if you want to get off mute, to ask a question. It may be something we can answer pretty easily. Well, Russ, I'll pass it back to you to discuss the SWOT analysis.
Okay, thank you, Helen. Yes, let's go to the back to the chat box. Helen is going to post another whiteboard for us to link into, and we will link into the SWOT analysis, and we will start out on strengths. We'll again all enter as visitors. You want to put your name in, you're welcome to. We're going to do this in the 4 quadrants, starting with strengths. And what I'm going to ask Helen to do is zoom us into that quadrant first. And with strength, you can start posting any of your ideas you'd like at this point, but these are the strengths of internal origin for your community that your community offers. And there's things such as what you could build on.
Russ, let me just interrupt a second.
Sure.
Folks, I don't see quite as many people arriving in this mural as in the previous one. Just want to reiterate, you're going to end up in a brand new window. You'll have a brand new avatar that represents you. You'll basically go through that very same process now a second time. You're looking for the item, go back to our Zoom chat box, the item that says Lawrenceburg SWOT analysis. And again, if you have any questions at all, feel free to unmute and ask, or put a question in the chat. I've got that up where I can see it, and I'll be happy to work with you directly.
So what we did, Helen, I clicked once and that took me to a new box, and then I was required to enter as a visitor. So once I clicked on that hyperlink, it took me to the strengths box. I still needed to click on enter as a visitor to get myself an icon.
Thank you for that, Jack. It's helpful to see to go through it from the user's point of view.
Yeah, so hopefully everyone has been able to link in as a visitor, perhaps with a new icon at this point. At this stage, I'd like to encourage you folks to start bringing up Post-it notes, typing in what you feel the strengths are of your community. And some of the items to consider are things to build on, things that your community does well. What are your unique resources that you have in Lawrenceburg?
Don't do any of this.
What qualities separate you from your competitors? Are there internal resources such as skilled and knowledgeable staff available?
Hey, Russ, can we pause for just a second?
Sure.
Is everybody able to get in there and post notes?
Yes, is there anybody?
No, there's 2 of us from Lawrenceburg. Apologies, but we're just not quite there yet.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So,
For me.
Yeah, just move forward. We don't want to hold everybody up.
on the other hand, we'd love your feedback. Are you able to find the, are you able to go back and forth between Zoom and the web browser, Guinevere?
Yes, I'm on Mural and putting
Okay.
in a name, but it's, and I hit enter, it goes to the Rivertown Review SWOT analysis page, but I don't see an emblem.
Look in the
So-
lower left corner of that screen. You should have an icon.
Are you by any chance a visiting rabbit or a visiting bear? I'm looking at the last ones to join. Or if you just
No,
move
it's-
your mouse around.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm on my iPad.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and
It may be that the tablet is the limiting factor here.
Okay.
If you can put your ideas in the chat box, we can capture them.
Yeah, Guinevere, if you would do that, I'll add them as you type them. Put them in the Zoom chat box and I'll put them up on the screen so everyone can see them.
Okay.
Oh.
So again, the strengths of your community, things to build on, what you do well, your tangible assets. What do others see as your community strengths? Qualities that separate you from your competitors, your unique resources, all ideas that can help identify the strengths of your community. That's what we're looking for. It is a matter of what you think is your showcases your community. And that can be in terms of the assets. It can be in terms of items that you do, such as events. All are strengths for your community. And great public spaces. I see some great Tanner's Creek boat ramp coming up. That's the Ohio River. Yeah, absolutely. Multiple eateries, the bike share. These are fantastic.
Excuse me, this is Debbie. I'm adding my stuff into the chat because I'm having a trouble getting in. So,
I'm working on it, Debbie. Thank you.
Yeah. Please use the chat if you cannot do the Post-it notes. And we will capture that information and bring it into this category. We will take a couple more minutes on this, and then hopefully give everybody a chance to catch up with between the chat box and the Post-it notes. So please start zeroing in on all your thoughts here. And again, as we said before, we want to try and capture each idea separately on a separate Post-it note. Sometimes there may be repeats, that's okay, but we want to capture all the ideas through this process. And if we were there in person, you'd be doing this on Post-it notes and putting them on the board yourself. And we would spend a little time to rearrange them and that type of thing. But today, I just want to capture the information, what you feel the strengths of your community are. And tangible assets, unique resources, things to build on. We have about a minute left to capture the ideas. Anything else that comes to mind, please add it. And when we are done with when the timer goes off here, we're going to move on to the next category. I think we have come close to the end here. I don't see any new Post-it notes coming up.
Oh, there we go.
That's a good list. Very good.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. That's great.
And Helen is capturing the ones that are in the chat and putting them in there on a Post-it note. So that's good.
Great. Helen, when you feel you've caught up, we'll move on to the next one.
I think I'm entering the last one.
Okay, great. Great. Once you've entered that, let's move into weaknesses.
Got to get one more thing.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
Helen, we don't have to go to a whole new page. She will just refocus us on
Right.
area where we will begin to enter new things.
You can begin entering what you feel the weaknesses are of internal origin for your community, things to overcome.
Oops.
What
Sorry
could-
about that. I think I just moved everybody.
You can put Post-it notes into weaknesses. What could you improve in your community? What are some of the things your community lacks? Things that perhaps your competitors do better than you. Where do you have fewer resources than others? What are others likely to see as your weaknesses? Again, things to overcome, some challenges there in the community. Most importantly, what could you improve or would like to see improved in the community? What does your community not have that others have?
I also, I'm going to jump in here, Russ. I also like the header on the SWOT analysis block that says, what are things that are harmful to achieving your objective of increased outdoor recreation?
Correct.
And tourism?
Yes, right.
What things are harmful to achieving the objective of connecting to the river?
What are the weaknesses? What are others likely to see as your weaknesses as a community? What could be improved in the community? I see easier access for kayaking, wayfinding signage, visual connection to the river from downtown due to the levee as being a visual obstruction. But it also provides a great vantage point once you're up there of both the river and downtown. So it has pluses and minuses. And we may find some of these same ideas are in different categories throughout the SWOT analysis, and that is fine. That often happens. Some items get repeated between weaknesses and threats, strengths and opportunities. And sometimes an item can be a strength and a weakness. It just depends on the perspective. And we're looking at things that really relate to your recreation amenities, your tourism opportunities, what we're trying to focus on. What your community lacks in terms of facilities. So are we entering into the chat? If you can't, do a Post-it note.
Yeah, I've got some great ideas here.
Excellent, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Do y'all need more time? We're about to wind down on this.
Okay. Any last minute ideas? We got a couple to catch up, I'm sure, and from the, oh, okay, we'll go on to opportunities.
Actually, everything in the chat is opportunities, so.
Okay, all right, opportunities is where we're going. And that's things to explore, and this is external, items externally. Things to explore. What are the opportunities related to underserved markets? An emerging need for your community. What are some of the trends out there that your community could take advantage of that is currently not taking advantage of? What don't we have in our community that would make our community better? What are some of those ideas what we don't have that would make our community better?
Insurance, you're going to drive the car, right?
And then how can you turn your strengths into opportunities? So
Yeah,
things to explore.
Which one? Yeah.
Underserved markets. Trends you could take advantage of. Emerging need for your community. How can we turn our strengths into opportunities? Some great ideas coming up here. to define bike paths through Lawrenceburg, connect bike trails to Tanner's Creek, more consistent dockage close to downtown, improve trails and roads in the Oxbow, direct downtown visitor to Oxbow, more shopping, vibrant downtown. All excellent ideas coming up for opportunities for the future for your community. What you don't have now that you'd like to see happen. And you're definitely a river town. You're surrounded by waterways with the creek, the Tanner's Creek, the Little Miami, and the Ohio River. And we're excited to hear that the community is moving forward and putting together an updated comprehensive plan. That's a great process to every community to go through to help set the stage for where they need to go in the future and what's important in their community that needs to be directed in the future. So my hats off to your community for doing a comprehensive plan. Are we winding down on opportunities in the chat box?
I think we just have well, let's see. No, they just keep coming.
And I want to capture all of them.
Yeah.
This is one of the most important lists that we are after today. And some of them will overlap, and that's fine. Just capture your ideas. By now, we're all pros at using the Post-it note method here with Merrill. Add bike trails through small communities. Absolutely. Look at the regional aspects of connectivity for alternative transportation. You have a great facility in place that's a good backbone along the river with that trail. You can add more to it over time. So as we things to explore.
Can I make a suggestion? Try to be on mute unless you have a question. Sometimes we can hear background.
Right. Thank you, Jack. Yes. Now we're a little less than a minute to go here before we're done with opportunities. I'm really excited to see all the things coming up on this particular board. More events on the Dearborn Trail. That's a great one. Kayak livery, kayak docking in the Oxbow. Historic Buildings Guided Tour. That's one of those low-hanging fruit opportunities. You don't have to build the buildings. They're already there. You just have to put the tour together. 8 seconds left. Great. Time's up. Are we caught up on the
Yes.
chat box? Okay.
We are caught up.
All right, let's move on to threats. And this is the same as before. What are the threats to your community? Things to minimize. Perhaps emerging competitors. What threats are out there that could harm your community? What threats do your weaknesses expose you to? Are there any changing regulatory environment issues that you need to deal with that are threats? And threats to your community. And we've done,
Oops.
with our past Rivertown reviews, we see flooding as a pretty consistent item for river towns. Any other ideas out there that are threats to your community? Again, things to minimize, things that could harm your community. Perhaps emerging competitors. changes on the horizon that could perhaps threaten some of the businesses and assets that you have in your community. Any changing regulatory environment that's coming up in the future. Threats. And I would say that our experience shows that threats are usually the lowest populated in terms of Post-it notes through this exercise, and that's okay. That's a good thing in reality. But we want to capture your ideas of what you feel the threats are to your community in the future, now or in the future. Changes in land use patterns or whatever it might be, or opportunities that related to that. Loss of revenues, pretty common. Funding is a pretty common aspect under threats. Environmental issues, that's a good one to have identified here. Major landfill being built upriver. Climate change, increasing flooding. These are all very good comments. I really appreciate it. US 50 traffic. Yes. Congestion. We got 19 seconds left, and we will close out on threats. Please list any last moment ideas that you have.
I'm adding just a little time. We've got a few more in the chat that need to be accounted for.
Okay, please do. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any threats to your community? Helen's still adding some more from the chat. I think Andrea's grouping them a little bit here as we move forward to kind of cluster some similar thoughts.
And I think I'm almost done.
Okay, great.
Oh, no, there are even more.
There are more. Okay.
Keep them coming.
That's right. Keep them coming.
Yeah, we're doing good on time, so no
Excellent.
rush.
Oh, thank you for that. Good.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah, threats, external origin. And again, all of this information helps us when we put together our recommendations for your community. It gives us a foundation from which to work from for those recommendations. And we have to reach out to the community to help them identify what these strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are for your community. This is where you share with us on what is important to you under these categories.
So I'm going to zoom out so we can see all of our handiwork.
Right.
Look at all that.
Fantastic. Hopefully we can capture that image for the report. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Great.
not seeing it.
All I'm seeing is threats, Helen.
Oh, sorry. Let's try doing this.
There you go.
Okay, and now we'll do this. Yay!
All
we
right,
did
we are done. We are done with the SWOT analysis. Well, thank you for your input. And at this point, okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, before we move on, does anybody have any comments or questions or thoughts about all of these ideas? Anything that becomes apparent to you or that maybe we missed, you missed? Always like to pause to give an opportunity for somebody to jump in.
Looks like we're heavily towards strengths and opportunities as opposed to weaknesses and threats. Lots of ideas around strengths and opportunities.
And that's pretty common. It's pretty common. So again, thank you for your time.
You're optimistic.
I would say that's not only common, but it's positive. It will lay out things we can work on, both short-term and long-term, as far as making improvements.
That's right. And it before what we have just done is giving us a foundation when we look at those strengths and those opportunities to go into our next step of brainstorming, which I will turn it over to Andrea to lead us through that.
Thank you, Russ. Okay, you all did so well. You have mastered the Post-it notes. Again, we really wish that we could be there in person, because this is how we would do our brainstorming, our SWOT analysis. Is we would be distributing Post-it notes and collecting them from you, and perhaps there would be more discussion about grouping them together, and we could prioritize them. But for our purposes and given the current conditions, this really does provide a lot of information to us as far as our recommendation, and hopefully helps you to see what obviously the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are for your community. Maybe looking at it in a new way, as well as us looking at it in a new way from an outsider's perspective. So now we're going to go into the brainstorming. Since you have heard so much, you've heard things from us coming into your community, the desktop review, the visit that we had, that the rest of our team had, and you've heard from the SWOT analysis, all those attributes about your community. Now it's time to think about putting those ideas out there that will enhance your outdoor recreation opportunities and promote tourism in your community related to the Ohio River. You've got that excellent position right there on the river. Are you embracing it to the extent that you could? Is it a valuable asset and resource? Are you capturing all that it could be related to outdoor recreation and tourism? And what are some other ways that you can be embracing that? All ideas are good ideas. We're going to try and generate as many ideas as possible. Crazy off the wall ideas are good because they inspire other people to think about things differently. Build upon everybody else's ideas that you see. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. And how about this? I will talk through some prompts as we go through, just to give you some guidance, some maybe to evoke some feelings or thoughts about what you can do in your community. So it's going to be very similar. Helen is going to put in the chat. Is that it? Yes, the Lawrenceburg brainstorming in the chat. And we're going to take a little bit of time over the next 20 minutes to jot down your ideas. So if everybody can go to that link, I'm going to go to that link so I can see what's happening. All right, so we can begin populating. Again, double click to make your Post-it note and start submitting your ideas for opportunities for Lawrenceburg to enhance outdoor recreation opportunities and promote tourism related to the Ohio River. This is a good place to maybe think about restarting your tourism opportunities, given what has happened with COVID over the last year. Maybe thinking of things that are resilient or more sustainable to the effects of the situation that we just had, or that we're coming out of. You know, all across the country, we saw dramatic increases in the use of outdoor spaces, outdoor recreation. It was a place that people could go. And how can you continue to capture those benefits, the many, many benefits of outdoor recreation for your community, to continue to have a good quality of life, an improved quality of life, healthy recreation, mental breaks from the stresses of the day. And what can be resistant to the ever-changing situations, whether it's economic or related to COVID. So what are some ideas that you have to further engage your town with the Ohio River? There it is. It's a great, beautiful asset. What about further engaging with the Ohio River Recreation Trail? We're coming to you to provide you ideas. What are some ways that we can be helpful to you other than this Rivertown Review? What are some aspects of the ORRT that you could embrace or that could be beneficial to your work? And what about the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail? Perhaps you haven't even considered what the benefits could be of engaging with them. And how about some classic trip opportunities? I don't know if you've heard about the Great Allegheny Passage. That was a collection of small trails that developed into one large trail, and it is now a destination trail of about 300 miles that people go to spend multiple days and visiting the towns all along the way. Are there some opportunities there that you can capture by being part of the ORRT and these long distance trail destinations? What about connections to the communities close by? Aurora is very close. So if you wanted to do a short paddle of about 4 miles, it would be very doable. And I also hear that the Dearborn Trail goes all along the river. So you have some excellent pedal paddle opportunities for shuttling. You could ride your bike, paddle back, paddle down, ride your bike back, whatever's easiest, right? And that opens up all kinds of opportunities and economic development opportunities as far as bike shops, bike rentals, kayak rentals, guided tours, connecting with your history, whether it's the Underground Railroad or Lewis and Clark, or how the Ohio River affected your community or the development of your community. And how about some programming ideas? You know, those kinds of guided tours or architecture tours, naturalist tours. I'm very curious about this Oxbow area. Could you do bird watching tours? And would you see those great birds that I saw in the background on somebody's screen? Think of things in terms of long-term and short-term, because we're going to be doing some dividing of that. Think about some early action projects, some low-hanging fruit, some really simple things that you could do that could capture opportunities, or even see if those ideas work. Maybe you could have some pop-up events, a pop-up kayak rental. Think about engaging youth. And what other businesses could come along that would be instrumental to making these things happen? I often say all trails lead to beer. So do you have a brewery on the river that would have great views while you could enjoy a beer? Is there a brewery on the river, Mike?
In Aurora, there's one, but I know Brian is hard at work every day, I think, trying to find a brewery to come downtown.
Okay. And how can ORRT be beneficial to your efforts at making this happen? So how are we doing on time? Anything to add?
We're okay on time, Andrea, I think.
Okay, good. All right. The team, anything to add from the team?
Well, just food for thought. One of the comments that I received when we did the bike tour with some out-of-town visitors, their question was, "What is there more things to do on the river when I'm in downtown Lawrenceburg? And how do I know the river's there? Or how, if I'm paddling from Cincinnati to Rising Sun or boating along the river, how easy is it for me to learn what's in downtown Lawrenceburg if I'm a transient paddler or boater?" So that might create some ideas to think about.
Right, that's a good one. So if you're driving into your community, there's one set of opportunities that you see. But if you're traveling on the river, what do people see from the river? What would compel them to dock their boat and see what Lawrenceburg has to offer? Oh, birds and beers with Oxbow, combining my two favorite things. Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments about what's been put in here? Okay, now we're going to do a little bit of an exercise, and this isn't meant to be firm or in concrete, but we're going to try to divide out what you think with our assistance. Some short-term ideas would be, short-term being 1 to 3 years, and long-term ideas, which would be 4 to 10 years. We know that these things don't always fit in very neat categories, but this helps us to start thinking about some early action projects that you can undertake to realize some quick wins or encouragement to continue. So, Helen, if you want to help too, you can move things over.
There's quite a bit in the area of signage and branding. I would say all that is feasible in the short term.
Right.
So I'll move those. And Russ, if you see things going in short term that you know to be longer term, feel free to grab them and move them again.
We also have a smaller space. And we invite the people who are on the call, if you see us putting something somewhere where it doesn't belong, or if you come up with another idea, feel free to enter it. This is meant to be interactive, not just us telling you what needs to be done.
Yeah, and this is definitely a time in the meeting where we're imagining more of a dialogue. We've been a little bit silent at this point, or y'all have been a little bit silent with your voices, but if you want to speak up, feel free.
If we were doing this in person, we'd be having a discussion as we move these Post-it notes. So like Helen said, please speak up. Give us your opinion if we're making a wrong assumption here. But this is a very important part of our exercise. And I just want to also thank everybody for their great ideas that they're bringing forth. And this helps set the course for the future in terms of recommendations.
I'll jump in. One thing, some of these ideas were talked about in the walkabout, so I don't know if Debbie or Guinevere or Brian would want to chime in on whether you agree or disagree that these should be short-term or long-term. It's things I've heard about in our visit on May 6th, for sure.
Some of these, I don't know what the capacity of your community is.
Right.
Maybe you have zoning laws that prohibit where your signs can go, or where you can create opportunities.
This is Debbie. Unfortunately, I can't see the Post-it notes, so because I've been just doing through the chat, so I'm not able to answer to that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's I'm sure it's me, the user, but I've been just using the chat, so I'm not able to kind of see where they're putting things yet.
And Debbie, you've put some great things in. I believe I've been able to add them all. Are you having trouble opening your browser, or is it because you're on a mobile device?
No, I think it's just me. I wasn't able to get in there and do the Post-it notes. So hopefully it'll be better for the afternoon session.
Well, yeah, you and I can chat at the end of this meeting if you want.
That'd be great.
Yeah, good.
So
Helen, do you have the ability to focus in on the
I
ideas?
do on short term. I zoomed in and now I'm zooming out just a little bit because we went outside the boundaries of our box, which is kind of great. So that's it. And I think this would be where we'll be doing another voting exercise, right, Andrea?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So
If I could suggest real quick.
Go ahead, Mike.
The transit and boat dock downtown. I don't know, would that be a long-term goal?
Oh, yeah, this one here. You know the lay of the land better than we do.
Thoughts around that?
Yeah, that's probably a capital expenditure type of item that might take more than 3 years to plan a budget. Good point.
Okay, so that's done. Is there anything else y'all see that might need to move to longer term?
I don't know about like your camping. That's on here a couple times. I don't know if you have the property or if you need to acquire the property. That might take some time. A lot of events.
Yeah, maybe we'll move that one as well. Okay, so I'll summon you again.
This is Guinevere. If I could just share a couple things. The campground, there is a campground that had a 100-year lease there along the Dearborn Trail in between a trailhead and the Lawrenceburg levee near Riverwatch. So that may be an opportunity where they were talking about camping. There isn't really a lot of signage. The artscapes that we talked about could be into short term. I know that there's a mural that's getting ready to go up here by middle of June. It has a river transportation theme to it, which is pretty amazing. It kind of unfolded through the mural development process. The pursuing and solidifying local funding opportunities for riverfront development. That needs to be short-term because that sets the plan, the stage for the long-term development between probably 2 to 4 years instead of 4 to 10 years, in essence, really.
And is that a particular note that you'd like us to move, Guinevere?
Well, it can kind of, before you do anything major, you need to solidify your funding and your budget, right? So these opportunities to pursue state funding that are available and announced this year are in the process of more education and regional collaborations because those are substantial amount of funding through those two and ready and next level trails that could affect both not only Lawrenceburg, but Aurora and Dearborn County in the entire region. So those are some planning steps that these areas are taking with great consideration. And then the riverfront development, even last night on the city council, there was a professional services plan for riverfront development feasibility study that was proposed last night. So they are moving forward, but those foundation planning and funding opportunities are something that needs to be solidified on the short term.
Good. Yeah, we've got it up here under ideas on the short-term ideas label.
So, and Brian has also mentioned maybe our region is the river cities. One of the things that we're looking at from the Lighthouse Point Yacht Club is connecting. It's in Aurora, Indiana. It's on the Ohio River and Lawfrey Creek. Is kind of using that river cities as a marketing tool because that's the destination where you are. You can enjoy all of these cities, including Rising Sun. So it was part of our River Cities Bike Share program strategy as well. That connectivity element between the river, the downtown districts, neighborhoods, recreational trails, the business district, it applies throughout all of our cities. And Brian's right. That was something that, is a great opportunity to market, regionally.
Good. Yeah.
What else does he have? And we have more in common than Brookville and Batesville. What's his comment?
Hey, Guinevere, just to clarify, are you suggesting a new post-it that sort of encapsulates the idea of a broad branding program for river cities?
Yes.
So Helen, if you could add a note, or I could try to add one, I guess.
I did add River Cities Bike Share Program.
Well, that's an existing program. I think what Guinevere is suggesting is a broader marketing program to market Lawrenceburg, Aurora, the Dearborn Trail, and all the amenities kind of under the umbrella of what you can do while you're in the river cities. Is that fair, Guinevere?
Yes. Destination river amenities from the river and throughout from a tourism aspect when you're in the cities, what you can do on the river, and from the river coming into the cities, that flow.
That's great.
Great. Marketing program for all the river cities. How does that sound?
Okay, this is great. We're going to take just a couple minutes here, and we're going to do some voting. Remember how you voted for your favorite animal. Helen will focus us in on short-term ideas. She will put up an opportunity to vote. You click on it and you choose your 3 top or favorite short-term ideas to pursue.
There we go.
So there it is. You can begin voting now.
There's a lot to choose from here, but we're going to go through this kind of quickly because we want a little time for long-term as well. So you can each cast 3 votes. If you want to stack the deck on a particular item, you can do that, or vote for 3 different ones.
And again, you can't see what other people are voting.
And if you mess up and you want to change a vote, just go back to that same Post-it note, hover over it, and right-click, and that's a way to remove your vote. And then you have your 3 votes restored.
So if we were in a room together, we would give you a sheet of sticky dots, and you would take your sticky dots and put it on your favorite ones. These are high-level facilitation tools. Sticky dots and Post-it notes.
And I would say, go ahead if you want to add anything in the chat. For those who are having difficulty with the mural software, just feel free to add a vote in the chat some way.
Yeah, I'm working on trying to take care of that.
So we got about 5 seconds for voting. How are we looking, Helen?
Well, I know what Guinevere wants to vote on, but I don't seem to be able to find them on the screen.
So the funding, setting up the funding outcomes, professional marketing plans for the river cities with aerial and location photography and branding,
Okay.
including videos, and
All right.
then the branding from the city to the river to the city, as far as how you identify where you're at from the river, looking at Lawrenceburg, plus artscapes.
Okay, where is artscapes on here?
Maybe you should add that.
Might have been in another slide.
I don't think it can.
One of the things that makes Perfect North Slope so amazing, when you drive down the lane to Perfect North Slopes, on all of their posts is an iron decal that showcases a different, skiing, hiking, walking, tubing, and it's got an action shot, but it just takes you down that lane, and it's pretty neat. So when I talk about artscapes, part of our local mural committee right now, we're looking at ways to engage and connect both sides of the river and downtown. But the I Love Indy, or something that you can take a picture with, that you could see from different areas, different elevation viewpoints within the city, that connects the river, the trail, and downtown.
Good.
So that's what I'm talking about with artscapes.
Okay. So I cast your vote on one that was already here, which was the river mural. And here we can see the voting results. That they should come up on your screen. And Guinevere, if I missed the point of that, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's a lot.
So Andrea, those are the voting results for short term.
Okay. You can, you also have the ability to scroll down to see what got 1 vote, 2 votes, and 3 votes.
And we are starting to run out of time here. Should we try to do a voting session on long term as well?
Yes, let's do that. So you'll want to exit out of the short-term voting by the white X in the upper right-hand corner.
And then I'm going to summon everyone to look at the long-term ideas to pursue. And we're just going to go ahead and start a voting session.
I would keep it kind of 2 minutes, Helen.
Okay, will do.
All right. There's less to vote on.
Right.
Let's vote on, and you're very professional at doing this now. You've mastered the system. Although these are a little bit more wordy, so.
Mm-hmm.
What are some long-term ideas that you would favor pursuing? Got about a half a minute left. Cast your 3 votes.
So longer term things, the AEP plant, some possibilities there, seeking to preserve the view shed. I'm just reading some of these aloud for those who might have trouble zooming in to see it. The AEP site comes up a few times. Creating kayak access on the Great Miami, transient boat dock downtown, build a primitive camping site, improve wayfinding to connect the gaps in the Dearborn Trail.
Okay, I think voting is closed. Also,
I'm casting a few for folks voting in the chat, and I'm working on that.
Okay. Keep in mind too that this isn't the end of input from your community. We will be reaching out to you with our reports and seeking your comments and questions to continue the discussion.
Okay, so we'll end this voting session and the results should come up.
Interesting. Okay. Great.
That's a lot of work, guys. Congratulations.
Yeah, it is. And
we are running out of time. So Ross or Andrew, if you can maybe transition to a wrap up.
yes. Let me get back to my screen here. Okay. So good job on the brainstorming. We're not going to go into those other questions. We are going to invite you to continue to look at your town with fresh eyes. This is meant to, our exercise today was meant to help you to think about things. And as you go forth from here, now that you've heard some of these ideas, hopefully it will inspire you to think about additional things. Let it ferment a little bit, or on your way home, you're going to notice something else that you wish you had put into the chat, or you wish you had filled out a note for. We will be asking you to share these opportunities, share this work with others so that we can continue to build upon it. And we're going to provide you an opportunity to send more ideas. We'll be sending out what we're calling homework, but don't be afraid. It is an opportunity for you to provide that input that you think about after the fact. We will also be sending out instructions for the 2 websites, for the Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail and for the ORRT digital guide. We will be doing a report out. We'll be gathering all of this information, including the homework that you send back in, and putting it into a report that will be very beneficial to you, not only with the results of what you said, but some of our own recommendations and all of the work that was put into this. So the documentation behind the summary. And also we will be providing you with a substantial resource of places to look for ideas, assistance, resources, funding. And I think that'll be a very valuable tool for you. We're also going to have a Rivertown Summit. It's right there in Lawrenceburg, so no excuses. We really hope to be there in person. It will be October 14th, is that correct?
Yes, at Ivy Tech.
At Ivy Tech. And we will be getting together all of the river towns who have participated in the Rivertown Review so that we can learn from each other, challenges, successes, resources, and work towards developing that larger brand of the ORRT, the Ohio River, and the river towns along it. So at this point, as we are out of time, I just want to defer to the rest of the team, the OR team, and see if there's anything else that you wanted to add. Otherwise, I'll throw it back to Jack and to say a thank you.
Anything from you, Russ? I know you were jumping in there.
No, I'm just going to say thank you to everyone for your time. Great input. Really appreciate the efforts on the brainstorming. As I indicated before, that's our foundation to work from.
Yeah, I echo that. I appreciate everyone's time and patience as we work through some of the technology with these virtual meetings. But we've captured a lot of information. And as Andrea mentioned, we'll be kind of collating that and bringing that back to you for some follow-up questions. So stay tuned and we'll continue to work directly through Mike Perleberg.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
That's a beautiful picture.